See us, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Zoom call today. So today we're going to talk about getting organized and how do we get organized? What are some things that we can do, some lists that we can make so that we are organized when death or incapacity occurs. As we do every time with these Zoom calls, if there's questions, comments, things like that, just enter them into your little chat box thing, your comments box, and then we will make sure we leave some time at the end to address those questions and go through those. Certainly, if you want to come in and sit down and review things one-on-one, we can do that as well. But if you want to utilize the chat box on your Zoom there, we can do that and answer questions today as well. So let's get started with going through. Then once again, just to remind everybody, we will have a drawing at the end. Lisa will draw a name for our gift basket for the month of June. So those of you that have won that gift basket, I think you have appreciated those and you've liked those. So hopefully we'll keep doing that and every month enter for a drawing for that gift basket. So getting organized, one of the best things that you can do when it comes to estate planning, most of you that are on this Zoom call are clients. I recognize a lot of you. And so you've set up your trust, you've set up your wills, your powers of attorney, you've done a good job of creating the legal documents, you've been in to see us, you've reviewed things, we've made sure everything is up to date, it's working like it's supposed to, and whatnot, which is great. You get a gold star for that. Great job. Perfect. And you put it in a nice binder for you, and you put that binder somewhere safe. I always recommend you put it in a fireproof safe inside your house. It's the best place for it. But you've done that part of the estate plan. The next thing that you need to do after you've created the legal documents, you made sure everything's up to date, it's working like it's supposed to, and you've made sure that the trust has been properly funded and all the assets are in the trust and it's working like you want it to as far as the assets go. The next thing that you need to do is to get organized. And I say that because we all are going to die. That's going to happen to all of us. There's no cure for death. And we might, before we die, also become incapacitated. We might get Alzheimer's, we might get dementia or Parkinson's or something like that. And so we want to make sure that certainly when death occurs, and if we should become incapacitated before death occurs, that we have all of our affairs in order, that everything is going to work how it's supposed to work. And so I'm going to go through a couple of items that hopefully is helpful to you as far as getting organized goes, to make it so that when you either do become incapacitated and or die, things are going to work as efficiently as possible. That's one of the main reasons why you created your estate plan in the first place, was so that when you die or become incapacitated, things are administered as efficiently as possible. We're not going to go through probate and all that junk that we would otherwise go through if we didn't create these legal documents. But in addition to creating the legal documents, we got to make sure that our house is in order and we're organized as much as we possibly can be. So to start with, in regards to getting organized, what I'd recommend that you do is you make a list of all of your assets that you have. So inside your binder, your book that we gave you that has your trust in it and whatnot, there's a tab inside that book. It's called Trust Property. If we've updated your documents recently with my new firm stuff, with our new binders, the tab would be called Trust Assets. But your old binders, if you still have the binder from Morris Hall, the tab is called Trust Property. It's the same thing. We just renamed it. And so behind that tab, I think it's the third or fourth tab from the front. It's right behind your Living Trust tab. There's this tab that says Trust Property or Trust Assets is the name of the tab. And behind there, we should have a current list of all of our assets. The first question that's always going to be asked when you either become incapacitated or die is, what are the assets and how are they titled? And so if you have that list in there behind the Trust Assets tab or Trust Property tab, then if you should become incapacitated and your kids are in here seeing me and asking questions about what I do, or you've died and the kids are in here, or whoever's administering your estate, maybe you don't have kids, maybe it's a friend or a neighbor or a sister or brother or something, whoever that person is, when they're sitting in here with me, and I ask them, well, what are the assets and how are they titled? More likely than not, they're going to look at me like a deer in headlights and say, I don't know what the assets are. I don't know where mom and dad bank or where my aunt Susie has her investment accounts at. But if we flip behind that trust assets tab, trust property tab, we should see in there a current updated list of all of your assets and how those assets are titled. So that's very, very important because that lets us know, okay, we got to get in touch with Wells Fargo. We got to get in touch with Bank of America. We got to get in touch with Fidelity. We have an IRA at Vanguard. And that gives us a good starting point as far as what are the assets and who do we got to get in touch with to get in control of everything, to start manage everything now that you're either incapacitated or you've passed away. So make that list of assets. It's also a good idea on that list of assets to list who the beneficiaries are on any asset that has a beneficiary designation. So there's 3 assets you probably have or might have that have a beneficiary designation on them every single time. Life insurance, retirement accounts, and annuities. Those 3 types of assets will always have a beneficiary designation. And so it'd be helpful and useful to your loved ones after you're dead, or if you're incapacitated, to know who those beneficiaries are. And so put that information behind your trust assets or trust property tab. So it's all right there, nice and organized. It's in your binder. We're not trying to figure out where it's all at and which drawer you put that information in, or is it on the computer, or how do we access the computer? It's right there in the binder, behind the proper tab it's supposed to be in. Now we can quickly find that information. It's very useful and helpful if you do that. So first thing to get organized, list the assets, put it behind the trust property tab or trust assets tab inside your binder. Keep that list updated. Certainly if you close an account down and you open up a new account, you need to update the list. So make sure you keep it updated. Every year, it's probably good just to review that list and see if you've changed accounts, you've moved money around, switched different institutions, update the list, and then list the beneficiaries on the 3 types of assets you probably have as part of your portfolio: annuities, life insurance, and retirement accounts. So that's the first thing as far as getting organized. Second thing, as far as getting organized goes, is you might want to start consolidating things, right? And so instead of having 20 different institutions that we have, $100,000 here and $50,000 here and $300,000 over there, maybe it's time to start consolidating things. So we're not having 20 different institutions we got to get in touch with when you're dead or incapacitated. Instead, we maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 institutions that we have to deal with. That certainly shortens the time frame in which things need to get done or can get done. And it makes things a lot more efficient if we're dealing with 2 or 3 institutions instead of 20 institutions that we're trying to deal with. So maybe consolidate things. It would be another good way to get organized. Another way to get organized is to look at how your assets are structured. There are certain institutions that are harder to deal with and work with after you're gone that maybe you're not aware of. And, certainly while you're alive, it may be super easy for you. You don't do anything. You just sit back and you get a statement every single month, or you get a dividend check or something. And so it's not hard for you. But after you're gone, you have to realize that some institutions are harder to deal with than others, and it creates a lot of inefficiencies. It creates time to get it done. And so it might be a good idea to take a look at that. To give you some examples of institutions that are harder to deal with than others, computer share. So if we have individual stocks, like let's say I have AT&T stock, it's not part of my brokerage account or my portfolio with my financial advisor, it's just I own individual stock with AT&T or Verizon, and it's through a company called ComputerShare. ComputerShare is very, very difficult to work with after death occurs. There's multiple forms that have to be filled out. They're going to want something called a medallion signature, which only certain institutions have this signature. It's a stamp, it's a special stamp that you have to get. And it's hard to get banks or financial institutions to actually stamp those forms and documents. And so if I have, let's say I have 100 shares of AT&T stock at ComputerShare, what you might want to do, if I also have a financial advisor with Charles Schwab, is I might want to go in and see my Charles Schwab guy and say, can you just absorb this AT&T stock and make it part of my portfolio and get it out of ComputerShare? And then it consolidates it, puts it under one roof, and now we're not dealing with multiple institutions. It's just Charles Schwab, and it's not dealing with ComputerShare and all their rules and all that junk that goes with that. So certainly looking at the institutions that we have the assets with and seeing, are these institutions going to be easy to deal with, or they're going to be more difficult to deal with, to make things as efficient as possible. One example is ComputerShare. If there's questions about that, certainly come in and see us. We can sit down. I can say, yep, Pershing is another one that's sometimes very difficult to deal with if we have retirement accounts. And Pershing is the broker dealer on that. They're difficult to work with when death occurs. So maybe you want to think about moving some of that. So just some things to consider when it comes to getting organized before death or incapacity does occur. Next thing you want to do, in addition to the assets and making a list of those and keeping them updated, and beneficiary designations and who do you have on that, is make sure you have a list of all the important people that are going to have to be contacted after you do pass away or become incapacitated. And so you have to remember, you're now dead or you're incapacitated. Who's your CPA? Who does all your tax returns? That's going to be important information for your loved ones to have. Who is the pastor of your church? Who's going to take care of the funeral service or memorial service? Do you have long-term care? If you have long-term care insurance, who's the provider? So we can get in touch with them. Who's your insurance agent? Is it State Farm? Is it Farmers? Who's the person that deals with your car insurance and homeowners insurance and all those things? Our information is already inside the binder, but inside your book that we gave you, there's a tab that says location list. I think it's midway through your book. If you find your book, your big binder that we gave you with your trust and everything, midway through it, you're going to see a tab that says location list. And you flip behind that tab, and there's a homework sheet that I probably put a yellow sticky tab at the top of it and said, fill this out. Most of you probably haven't done that, and that's okay. I'm not offended by that. But it's probably a good time to review that and go through that and say, okay, we got to list all these important people inside here so that when we die or become incapacitated, it's very easy for our trustee to get in touch with our CPA and our attorney and our financial advisor and our pastor and our doctor and lawyer and all those important people. So make it easy for them. And once again, that's something that we certainly don't do it, once and then never have to update it or review it or clean it up, because people retire. Maybe your CPA has retired and you've gotten a new CPA. Well, you need to update that information now on your form. Maybe your doctor has retired, or you've moved from one doctor to a different doctor. And so it'd be good to review that every year as well and see if we need to update that information and clean that up a little bit. So that would be the next thing, is just make sure we have all of our important people that need to be contacted, that list updated, reviewed periodically, and see if it needs to be cleaned up. Very important to do that. The next thing I'd recommend that you do is go through all of your old stuff. A lot of times we like to accumulate things and keep old things that we don't need anymore. So start going through all your files and getting rid of the old stuff. Like if we had a piece of property that we sold 10 years ago on Cherry Lane, do we still have the deed for that property? We don't need it. You sold it, you don't own it, you have no rights to it, throw it away, shred it, get rid of it. So go through all of your stuff and just start cleaning everything out. Do we have 30 years of bank statements? Do we need all that? No, we don't need all that. So get rid of that stuff. Do we have old annuities policies sitting around? Old life insurance policies sitting around? Old bank statements from banks that we used to bank at when we lived in Oregon or Minnesota? Get rid of all that stuff. All it does is cause confusion, because then your trustee or your kids are saying, do I need to contact New York Life because there's this policy sitting here? So maybe they had a policy. I don't know if they did or didn't. Well, now they've got to sit on the phone for an hour and a half and talk to somebody, so that at the end of the call they say they terminate this policy 20 years ago. It's a waste of time. So we want to clean everything up, get rid of our old stuff. My recommendation is just get a file holder and create a file for each asset you currently have, and just label that file, bank accounts, and then just put a recent bank statement in that file folder. Deed to the house, put the deed to the house in the file folder. Life insurance policies, put your current life insurance policies in that folder. And so everything is nice and organized and neat. It's got all of your most recent information. And then tell your trustee, hey, if we should become incapacitated or die, all you got to do is find the red filing cabinet. It's in the office. Here's the key to it or whatever. And in there, you're going to find the deed to the house, the life insurance policies, the annuity contracts, the bank statements, the IRA information. It's all in that filing cabinet. So clean out your old stuff, get rid of it. All it does is cause confusion, and it takes time to go through it if you don't do that while you're alive and have capacity. So hopefully that makes sense in regards to that piece. The other thing that I would recommend that you do as far as getting organized goes is make sure that your personal property is all taken care of. I've talked about this a million times, but it never seems to fail. I could probably say it a million more times and it's not enough. The number one thing that's litigated after death occurs is not the brokerage account. It's not the life insurance policy. It's the personal property. So it's your ring, right? There's only one of them. I've got 4 kids. Which kid's going to get the ring? If I'm a veteran, there's one flag. Who's going to get the flag? Maybe there's the grandfather clock that came over from the old country, Germany or Switzerland or something, from great-great-grandma when she moved over here. Who's going to get the grandfather clock? Maybe there's the Civil War mug that has been passed down from generation to generation. Who's going to get that? So make a list of all those things, and then who gets those items. Now, certainly you don't have to list everything inside the house. They don't care about your socks or your shoes or your dress. That stuff is irrelevant. But the stuff that has sentimental value to them, they will argue and fight about that stuff. So make a list of it. Diamond ring goes to Judy. Tools go to Bobby. And that way, when you die, we have that to show a judge, if there ever is an argument, this is what our clients wanted. They wanted the diamond ring to go to Judy. Now, certainly, do the kids have to accept that gift? So let's say you say diamond ring goes to Judy, and Judy says, I don't want the diamond ring, give it to Samantha. Then yes, they don't have to take it, but at least you've said who should get it, and it takes it out of their hands from arguing over it after you're gone. So make a list of the personal property, and then decide who's going to get those personal property items. Another thing a lot of people do nowadays, because we have these wonderful things called smartphones, is just take a picture of the item. So snap a quick picture of the diamond ring, and then you can print it out and stick that photo in your estate planning binder and put a name underneath the picture. Judy gets the diamond ring. So that makes it really easy as well. So recommend with the personal property, make a list, who gets the items. I've heard it a million times. I know if all of you were sitting in the office right now and we were doing this live, I would see all the hands being raised right now saying, Dave, I've asked my kids what they want and they all said they don't want anything. And I've told them to start picking what they want and they all told me we don't want any of it. Don't worry about it. I promise you, I swear to you on your grave, They say that now, but when death occurs, none of them feel that way. None of them do. They all want the same stuff when death does occur. So just fill out the form. It's in your binder. It's behind your legacy planning tab. So it's the last tab in your book that we gave you, the big book. There's a tab in there. It's the last tab in your book. It should say legacy plan. Flip behind that tab. You'll see a homework sheet. I probably put a yellow sticky note at the top. And it's just, the titling of it is distribution of personal property. Just take that, write the person's name and what item they're supposed to be getting. It's not that hard, just do it. So hopefully that helps with the personal property and how that should be distributed and how that's taken care of after you pass away. Next thing, as far as getting organized goes, is if inside your estate plan, your trust, it says, let's say I have 4 kids, and let's say I've decided that one of the kids I've helped a ton out while I'm alive, right? Let's say I paid for his house, I paid for his law school, I paid off a bunch of debt of his. And so let's say I've given him $400,000 while I was alive, and the other 3 I haven't done the same thing for. So this one's already gotten $400,000, and the other 3 I haven't had to do anything for. They all got scholarships. They, I didn't have to pay for any debt or anything. Well, maybe then in my trust, to equalize things out, when I die, I've drafted the trust to say, Johnny, the son I already gave $400,000 to, his share is decreased by the $400,000 I already gave to him. And that $400,000 then is to be distributed equally between the other beneficiaries. And so he gets less when I die because I've already given him a bunch while I was alive. Well, it's important that Johnny hears from you why you did what you did, right? We don't want to be sitting, here with me as the attorney reading through the trust with your 4 kids, Johnny being one of them, sitting here, and me saying, okay, well, now that mom and dad have died, Johnny, you're only going to get 10% of the estate, and the other 3, you're splitting the remaining 90%. And there's no explanation. It's just, Johnny says, well, why? Why am I not loved? Did they not care about me? What's the reason? I only got to tell. I don't know. It's just, the trust just says you get 10%. It'd be nice if you had a letter that we could give to Johnny and the other kids that explains why you did what you did. So highly recommend, if you've done something like that where you've got 4 kids and you've decreased one of the kids' shares that's less than the other 3, that you explain why you did what you did. That's important to come from you in a letter, so they can read it, they can understand it, and then we give the letter to Johnny after you're dead, and Johnny looks at it and he's reading it. So, oh, that does make sense. I did get $400,000 from mom and dad while they were alive, and the rest of you didn't. So I guess that's fair. But that's important to come from you. It shouldn't be coming from the attorney, and certainly there should be an explanation as to why you did it. It does solve a lot of litigation issues and hurt feelings that may happen on the back end after you're gone. So important to do that. In addition to that letter that kind of explains why you may have decreased one of the kids' shares that's less than the others, it's not a bad idea to just write a general letter to everybody after you're gone. So you have to remember, this binder that we gave you that's, super thick and big, and it's got all these legalese and everything in it. That's not what your kids are going to remember you by. 10 years from now, they're not going to be sitting around reminiscing about, oh, you remember when mom and dad created that massive estate planning binder and it had all that really cool legalese language in it? That was awesome. That's not what they're going to remember. What they're going to remember is what you thought of them and whatnot. So put that in a letter. Just say, these are my hopes, these are my wishes, these are my dreams, these are my aspirations for you. You spend basically a final goodbye letter, and that's what they'll always hold dear and what they'll always remember you by, and what your legacy will continue on with is through that letter. So not a bad idea to write the letter. How many of my clients have ever done that? As far as I know, 0. So I will always say it. How many do it? Very few, but I think it's a good idea. And even nowadays, if you don't like writing a letter, just video it, right? Put it on a short video clip it on your phone. and then just download it, put on a thumb drive or something, and stick the thumb drive inside your binder so the kids can have that and always remember you by it. The other thing I would say is, you think about your posterity, your great grandchildren that you'll probably never meet. How are they going to know you and remember you? How are you going to continue your legacy, 30, 40, 50 years from now? Maybe you don't care, but some of you might. And so you have to remember this money that you've accumulated, that we have protected inside your trust, your house that's going to be sold after you're gone, and your IRAs that are going to continue after you're gone, and your brokerage account that's still going to hopefully be there after you're gone. This is money that if your kids do the right thing and it's invested properly, this can continue for generations and generations to come. And so maybe we would want our great grandson to know a little bit about us, because he's going to benefit from that inheritance that we've left behind. So do videos that tell everybody a little bit about who you are and your stories and how you met, if you're married, and all those cool stories that are going to be forgotten if it's not memorialized in some way, shape, or form. So leave something behind so that your posterity can always know who you are, and go back and look at those cool videos and watch them and get to know you a little bit and see your personality in a video. So I'd recommend that as well. It's not something about getting organized, but certainly it's a good thing to do. So any questions on that kind of stuff? If you do, certainly put it in the chat box. There's a couple of other things I'm going to go through, and then we'll end our Zoom call today. But the other thing I would recommend that you do is, there's another behind the location list tab that we were talking about. There's a place where you can jot down where you keep everything. So where do we keep our estate planning binder? Is it in a fireproof safe in the house? What's the combination of the fireproof safe? Is it in a safety deposit box at the bank? What bank is it at? So we know where to find the estate planning binder. Where do we find the tax returns? Where do we find the deed to the house? Is it in the red filing cabinet? So the location of all these things is important to know. I can't tell you the number of times when death has occurred and the kids are sitting in here and all they knew was they were supposed to call me when death occurs, and I'm saying, okay, well, where's the estate planning binder? Where's the asset information? And they're saying, I don't know, Dave, we're still looking through the house. We haven't been able to locate it. They never told us where it was at. I don't know if it's at their bank. I don't know where they bank. I don't know if they buried it in their backyard. There's no map to the treasure. We don't know where to find this thing. So don't do that. That's bad planning. Certainly you've spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of effort in creating this binder. Don't hide it. Make sure that we know where to find it, because it's no good to us if we can't find it and use it to administer your estate after you're gone. So make a list of where you keep everything. Where's everything located? So we can quickly access that information and do what needs to be done after you've passed away. I would also make a list of all of the monthly bills, the things that are coming out of your account automatically, or things you're paying for every single month. Who's your mortgage with? Who is your electricity with? Who's your cable with? Who's your cell phones with? Anything you're paying for monthly, you should have a list of that, because when you die, we got to contact all those places and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have died. We got to terminate the cell phones. We're not paying $100 a month for that anymore. We don't want to be paying Cox Cable unless you like Cox Cable and they should be a beneficiary of your trust and you want to keep paying them $300 a month. But no, we don't want to do that. So we want to terminate all those things, make sure that we're not continuing to pay for stuff that we don't need anymore now that you've passed away. How do we know what to terminate? We need a list of it. We've got to know who to contact for all those things. I would make a list of all of your credit cards, your debit cards, your charge cards, all those things, because all those have to be terminated after you pass away as well, or at least contact to let them know, if you're married, one spouse has died, and removing that spouse from that account. So making a list of all of your credit cards, debit cards, and charge cards would be very helpful as well. Another thing to make a list of would be any income that's coming in every single month, right? So if I have a pension from Caterpillar, it'd be nice to know, the kids should know, hey, you got to contact Caterpillar when I die, because we don't want the pension to keep coming in every single month, because then if I don't know to notify Caterpillar after I've died, and I find out 6 months later after death has occurred, then I got to reimburse Caterpillar all those months that they put money into the account. So it'd be nice to know that right off the bat, so we can terminate that and end that, and not have to reimburse them. So anything that's coming in the account every month, you know, are we getting a dividend check? Well, that's going to tell us which asset we have to get in touch with for that, pension, Social Security, those kinds of things, so we can get in touch with everybody after death occurs. Oh, good point. So paralegal Donna just gave us a note saying to mention PIN numbers. So that's a really good point. So another thing to do, and now it's probably more important than it used to be, but it's something called digital assets. What is a digital asset? A digital asset is anything that we do online. Okay, so an email account is a digital asset. A Facebook account is a digital asset. An online banking account is a digital asset. You might have, you know, Bitcoin or something like that. That's also a digital asset. So we need to shut these things down, terminate them after death occurs, or incapacity. You know, you're not going to need your email account if you're incapacitated. So we would need to terminate those things. So how do we do that? Inside your binder, behind the legacy plan, there is a homework sheet. Once again, I should have tabbed it with the yellow sticky note. It's called digital asset information. And on there, we'll make you list the website, username, and password or PIN for all that stuff. And so you should list all that stuff out. You know, if we have a laptop or a MacBook or our phone, right? How do we get into our phone? I have a PIN number to get into my phone. Well, it'd be important to know what the PIN number is so we can access the phone. You know, this has all my photos and notes and all sorts of stuff on there. So if my kids want that stuff, they're going to need the PIN to get in there. Or our MacBook at home or our desktop at home. How do we access that? How do we get into that? You're going to need all that information written down so that that stuff can be accessed and that information can be gotten a hold of after death occurs. So PIN numbers, usernames, passwords, websites, all that stuff is going to be super helpful for the digital things that we're going to have to get in control of after death or incapacity occurs. Those are the major things. If you do those things I just said, I kind of fed you through a fire hose. I gave you a lot of information there. This is recorded, right, Lisa? So we're recording this Zoom. I think we always put it on our website and YouTube. So I know I kind of talked fast. I went through it. You were probably trying to jot down notes as quickly as you could. If I said something that you were like, oh, we'll go back and say that again, I didn't get it written down. This is recorded. We're going to put it on our website. You go to our website. It will be on there. You go to our YouTube channel and it's on there. You can watch this as many times as you want. But also just realize that in your binder, if you just open up that binder and you kind of get yourself a little bit familiar with that binder, you're going to see in there all these homework sheets that I've talked about. And that will remind you, oh, this is what Dave was talking about. It's the location list thing I need to fill out. Oh, this is the important people homework sheet Dave was talking about. Here it is. I got to fill this out. So all that stuff is in there. You just kind of got to go through that and find it. Like I say, if you've been in to see me in the last 5 years or so, I'm usually pretty good about taking out little Post-it notes and putting the Post-it note at the tops of those pages that are homework pages that you should have filled out and done. And you know, maybe you did it 5 years ago and you haven't looked at it since then. So it might be good to go back and review that and see if that stuff just needs to be updated now and cleaned up because things have changed. You know, people that you used to work with, you know, your advisor is no longer your advisor, your doctor is no longer your doctor, or assets have changed since you originally filled that out. So it might be a good idea just to kind of review that and see where things are at. Anyway, did I forget anything, Lisa, you can think of? Donna is also listening in, so if she can think of anything, certainly let me know. But those are kind of the major things that I would recommend. Once again, if you want to come in and sit down to review that or ask questions, we're always happy to do that for you. There's no fee for those consultations to review it. You can email as well, phone call if you want to do that. But hopefully this was useful to everybody. Appreciate everybody participating today and joining us. There's no place you would rather be than in the nice cool of your home or wherever you're at instead of the 125-degree weather we're having here in Arizona. So I appreciate you joining us. So what we're going to do now is if there are questions, certainly type those in. Got a good comment. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for the comment. We're going to do a drawing. As we're doing that, like I say, if there's questions, certainly feel free to type them in. We're going to do our drawing now for the gift basket. Elisa is going to draw a name out here. And we have Pat Sylvester. So Pat, you won our gift basket. What Elisa will do is she'll reach out to you, Pat, and we'll find a way to get that to you. Either we can have you come into the office and pick it up, or we'll coordinate a time and a way to do that. And Lisa will reach out to you. So congratulations, Pat. Hope you like the gift basket, and we will see everybody back here in July, hopefully. Enjoy your summer, stay cool, and hopefully you're able to get out of the heat a little bit, go someplace fun now that COVID's kind of going away a little bit. I know California just opened up, I think, yesterday. Everything's open in California, so that's great to see. Anyway, stay safe. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in July. Bye.